I wish there was like comic. I imagine like Comic Book Girl 19 with the special effects, the keyboard in the background, dun dun dun. It's like no, there's not going to be any special effects on a Samsung S5. Um, imagine being poor. So the beginning and end of diversity in comics, sort of. And I wonder, like, the SJWs, I know they're still concerned about Comicsgate in general, and they seem to think EVS is literally Satan. I don't know if they're as concerned about actual Richard Meyer diversity in comics, or if he's kind of flown under the radar. But Comicsgate is very much a part of these people's existence on Twitter, which is weird because Comicsgate's like 5+ years, no, like 7 years old. Depends when you want to say Comicsgate started. Because it was even actually pre-YouTube, if you really want to be technical. But like when the YouTube bloomed, I don't know when that really got. 2016, I kind of think, was when it all kind of kicked off. So I mean, it's someone on one of the live streams says just when we need Zach least, he leaves, and that's kind of accurate, but not in a malicious statement, because I think most of us are hoping like, okay, go do firewalls for 6 months, and then come back and get over your fear of live streams and go do live streams with all the people who want to live stream with you. Like there's a couple dozen people who've got, 6-figure channels with huge live stream audiences that would just probably bend over backwards to invite you on. It's weird that you wouldn't take advantage of that. Hey, here's my Rolls Royce. You want to take it out for the weekend? Nah, I'm going to go for a walk instead. All right. I mean, sure you don't want to like just take it out for an hour? Like just go cruise on the freeway? Just it's Rolls. I mean, just no, I'm good. I'm just gonna watch Three's Company or something. Oh, okay, it's a little bit odd. I mean, it is a $300,000 car. It's odd that you wouldn't take advantage of this opportunity to drive it, but whatever, you do you. I mean, if you're happy, I suppose. Anyway, so the end of diversity in comics, not really. I suspect he's going to do firewalls for 6 months and probably come on back. Anyway, first of all, Myers made all this possible. So in the philosophical approach, he's kind of a small god, if you read that Terry Pratchett book. And when you think of the fractal butterfly concept of the universe, his were the butterfly wings that started all this. All of us wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for Zach's gossamer butterfly wings. So no matter how crazy he is, and he made this all possible. So mad respect for that in all seriousness. But he is also a crazy person. So in case you didn't know, he started Comicsgate several years ago. And there was the Mark Waid situation when he tried to launch his first book, Jawbreakers. And there was the publishing company and Mark's interference. And Mark Waid is also legitimately a crazy, much more so of a crazy person. But now Comicsgate itself is firing on all 8 cylinders. There's a lot of people making videos, and there's a ton of people selling comics. In some people are doing it full time. Most people are probably doing it part time, trying to get that off the ground. But there's a lot of creativity going on with Comicsgate. It's fascinating to see. But Mr. Myers was not so much into selling his comics as much as he seemed to like creating comics. All he had to do was go on live streams and make fun of SJWs. Which is weird because it was something he was really good at. It's weird that you wouldn't want to do something you're really good at that other people also want to pay you to do, like throwing money at you to do. It's like, no, I'm good. I'm just not gonna. Just keep your money. It's okay. I can't. A lot of us have a hard time wrapping our heads around that. But for Myers, this was a bridge too far, giving people, part of the entertainment. He gave the comics, and the comics are top notch. No shade on the comics. Very much enjoyed Iron Sights with Abe Canales' art style, because like I says, Mr. Myers has got some issues. So he's got all these guys with platforms to help him sell his stuff. Yellow Flash is the biggest. You got EVS, Star Wars Girl, John Malin, Cecil. Then there's even smaller platforms like I Love Comics and I don't know, Bancroft and General Zod. And there's a bunch of other of those channels. It's like you could have popped in for a half hour on these guys' live streams it would be like, I don't know, it would tickle them. It would tickle them to have like you pop onto, Angleteen's stream for an hour, once every couple weeks and just to talk about whatever. It would be fun. It's like, do what you want to do, but I know it would make those guys, it would make those guys night if you did stuff like that. And then there's also huge Phantom Menace channels like Gary Nerdrotic, Overlord DVD, whatever. Had to change his name because the name was hot. But like that guy's got a huge live stream. I'm sure he would have loved to have you come on and talk pop culture for an hour, in front of like 5,000 people on a live stream. And there's like a dozen other channels, comics channels, pop culture channels that would have just bent over backwards to have you come on a live stream and talk to their new audience. The cross-pollination method, which I know I'm sure he's listening to this and taking careful notes. The thing is, he knows all this, which is kind of weird. Anyway, Meyer seemed to like making videos and making comics, but not so much the business of selling them. So the thing is, a lot of Zach, who, keep in mind, I don't want to pretend familiarity. I've never spoken to him. So I'm coming at this from an outside viewpoint, but that also means I don't have like an emotional investment in this. I have been around Comicsgate since the very beginning. So I was very familiar with it from the beginning and the middle points of it. Now I kind of listen to smaller channels much more than bigger channels. A lot of Zach has to be viewed through this lens of he is legitimately a crazy person. His view is just a little bit askew. I don't mean he's out on the street throwing cinder blocks through taxis while wearing a bright pink wig, but we know he's not wired exactly right. Zach doesn't know he's not wired right because he's not wired right. But he also made a few $1 million in comic sales, so he's obviously doing something right, and he's got that stuff. He's got it on demand. It's selling forever up on Amazon and, everywhere. It's like, so he has grown the seeds of these little IPs, dozens of these IPs that he owns. So that is doing something right. But he's going to go back to firewalls. Hopefully it's just a 6 months before he gets his head wrapped on straight. So what happened? Well, he started with a few big campaigns, Iron Sights and Jawbreakers, and promoted them. And that was kind of like how that was the Comicsgate model, was you tried to do that. You did maybe 2 big campaigns a year, or if you were just starting, you try to do 1 campaign a year and put all your energy behind that. And then as you got more familiar, because any new business is a new business, you're going to have to get used to doing something, fulfillment and that kind of stuff. And then you try to get 2 big campaigns a year. And that could be, if they're big enough, you go from working part-time, doing a part-time comics thing to a full-time. So that was kind of the Comicsgate model for a lot of people. And most importantly, you promote the hell out of them. You make them as big as possible. Try to get them to hit, over $200,000, whatever you need to. It's not just the initial money coming in. It's like that's all people see. It's also, they're also going to continue to sell. If they're in demand, they're going to continue to sell forever. So you have to kind of factor the over time return on investment, not just the initial return on investment. But obviously, the bigger it is initially, you see Cecil's, it's like, I think almost $300,000 or something. But Zach kind of went the other direction, which is not as insane as it looks. A little bit weird from one perspective, but it's like I said, he's dropping all these seeds of intellectual properties that he owns. So from that perspective, it's not actually as weird. It's like, instead of money up front, you're kind of planning on future return on investment. So it actually does make sense in a way. But and he didn't do exactly what is known as diluting his brand so much as he diluted his energy. He could do 3 big campaigns a year, use the WWF mode. Actually, I'm old enough to remember the WWF, not the WWE mode of you got like 2 big wrestling events a year. It's like they had 12 small or 10 small ones and then the 2 big ones a year. But like really you'd focus, if you were going to have a party, my buddy would have parties for the 2 big events a year, SummerSlam or something. And that would be where you'd spend the $50 for the pay-per-view back in the 90s. He could have just focused on Iron Sights and Jawbreakers. Like I said, John Malin did the first Jawbreakers and I.B. Canales did Iron Sights, which was both fantastic. And thing is, going on every live stream to promote the hell out of them. That's the important part. That Zach in front of a crooked cross. Yeah, that totally makes sense. What I've learned from Comicsgate is the first few years of being in it as a, if you're selling comics, it's 99% promotion of your channel to get your channel off the ground, to get a few thousand subs. let them know in the future you're going to sell a comic, and then you get a mailing list and you show some art and this kind of stuff. It's just getting your channel, not so much focused on the comic itself. Then after that, you've got to cross-pollinate, go on live streams almost every freaking night if you have to, because doing live streams takes practice, and it can take a year of practice. I've seen a few people in CG who they got on live streams and like they were horrible the first year, and then they were horrible the first 4 months, and then the second 4 months they were getting to be where they were half horrible, and then at the end it's like, oh, they actually turned out to be pretty good live streamers. It's like it took them a year, and people. If you're just watching content, you think, oh yeah, you just get a video, you just get a camera and get a video and you start making videos. And it's like, I just say what you want to say. It should be easy, right? It's like, you think that way until you actually make a video. And it's obviously not rocket science, but it is something. And live streaming is more so than making videos. I assume it's harder. I've never gone to live stream. I don't really have the tech set up for it, but it takes practice. Like all this stuff takes practice. It's like anything else. Live streaming. It's like I literally said the one guy I'm talking about is Testify HD. Rest in peace. He passed away from pneumonia. It took him a year to where at the very end of it, he finally rubbed off all his rough edges, and he was just moving. He was in the groove at the end of it. But for like the first 11 months, he came across as kind of a dick. And then he just slowly rubbed off his rough edges and got in the groove. We're towards the end, right before he got sick. The guy was a great live streamer. And it sucks that he passed away because it's, obviously his family, but think about the real victims, the YouTube audience who missed out on all that great content that we had years of this guy. That sounds a bit callous. Anyway, rest in peace. It sucks. It kind of bummed me out that he got sick. Anyway, cross-pollinating. You got to go on live streams. You got to just practice, that kind of stuff. It takes years. Oh, but I don't know. He said he was nervous about being alive. I don't know. He said something like he seemed to say he wasn't a fan of live streaming. It's like, you're too old to be nervous about live streaming. 50 years old. The time for being nervous is if you're 20 and you're going on live streams. It's like literally there are 20-year-olds who are pretty good at live streams. The thing is, your job is selling comics, and that requires live streaming with other humans. There's no way to get around it. If you live stream a campaign and get people behind it, you're going to get a $500,000 campaign. If you don't live stream, you're going to get like $70,000. That's just the cold, hard reality of it. So it doesn't matter how much you don't like doing it. You just have to do it. And I've heard him with Ethan a few times. It's like something the dude is naturally good at, got chemistry with the people he's interacting with. So I don't quite understand what the problem is. And before I get too far, the white pill is like, yeah, he goes back to IT for, I can't imagine he's going to do that too much longer before he's going to have a epiphany one day when he's doing some computer crap and I'll realize like, oh, what am I doing? This is crazy. This is like, all I have to do is go back to Comicsgate and start live streaming and get back in that groove. But the thing is, it's good for a few months or a year if he wants to do it, because it means he'll do fewer campaigns, which means he has to promote them. If he goes back to doing 1 or 2 campaigns a year, the Ironsides, the Jawbreakers, get them to, somewhere in the 6 figures and then just leave them in demand. Zach forgot that sales is entertainment, and Ethan is an absolute master of this. You're selling entertainment, you're selling yourself, and a vibe. The vibe is Comicsgate versus the SJWs. And yeah, Twitter is useful for that. People are, they're a little bit of it is they're buying comics, but they're also supporting you. And they're supporting the movement. And part of it is a middle finger to SJWs. It's like, it doesn't matter why people pay you. You don't want to get in the way of people paying you. If, like, you're just supporting these people, just sell the SJWs off. So, ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's like all this energy that is behind a movement. It doesn't matter why people are helping add energy to this movement, as long as the energy is there. Comicsgate is a party atmosphere. The comics don't sell themselves. People want to be part of a gang. This is the party. They want to hear you make fun of SJWs, which is something, he was really good at. And it's really easy because there's no shortage of materials. But, also part of that is you have to do live streams. And the thing is, there's no shortage of materials. Like comics and all the people associated with comics are ultimate lol cows. They are never going to dial it back. Comics get worse and worse every year. And the people involved in them are so ridiculous they need to be lampooned. Always laugh at SJWs. So it's weird that you would do something that you're good at and that people really enjoy seeing and that people also want to pay you for. Like they literally just want to give you money just to be funny on live streams. It's weird that you wouldn't want to take that money. Like, no, I'm going to go put in firewalls. I can't help but think you're not as entertaining putting in firewalls as you are on a live stream. I, it, I just have a hard time wrapping my head around that. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys all next episode.